Good afternoon. Michael Mazarang here again, and today I'm here with Chris Merman. Chris is a good friend of mine, and we're in the foundation repair industry. We've worked together for on and off for 20-some years, and Chris is one of the most experienced foundation repair professionals here in the Charlotte market in North Carolina. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about retaining walls. All over the city there are places where we see timber retaining walls that may have been installed in the 70s or 80s. They tend to decay over time, and customers often go through a quandary of whether they should replace those walls or can they be repaired or stabilized in place. Chris, we've worked on some timber retaining walls over the last few years. We've had some great success. Tell me a little bit about the advantages of stabilizing a timber retaining wall as opposed to replacing it.
Well, one of the first and foremost biggest advantages is less disturbance. Obviously you have to make egress for equipment, for replacement. There's removal and disposal of the timbers, and usually those timbers are creosote timbers, old railroad ties, if you will, and they can't or shouldn't be just put in a regular landfill, which requires special dumping, and that's very expensive. So, from that point of view alone, they do allow them to stay in place, and they'll just continually to degrade naturally into the ground, and as everything just kind of dissipates. So, like I said, there's a huge cost advantage for just leaving them in place.
And we were introduced to this technique when we worked at that geotechnical engineering firm back some time ago, and we were introduced to that soil nail concept, which basically puts a threaded rod back through that damaged retaining wall and a series of fencing, potential geogrid as well, that can get installed to that wall to stabilize it for maybe 20 or 30 more years.
Oh, easily.
Tell me a little bit about that process and the approximate. Is it a half the cost, a third of the cost of ripping it down and doing a new wall?
It's been my experience. It's generally the stabilization or repair in place is half the cost. Generally, but sometimes even much greater, even a 75% savings, because let's just say that the wall is in a tight access area, and either you're going to pay someone to hand carry everything out, or you're going to be taking down trees, tearing down fences, removing whatever's necessary to cut a road in or a small ramp in for equipment. So, like I said, it can be significant savings there.
You bring up limited access drilling, which is one of your big specialties.
Absolutely.
And, just for example, like the wall we just looked at the other day, no access, almost impossible to get a piece of equipment in there. Tell the audience here, what is it? How exactly do you get by that impediment? What kind of equipment do you use? And how do you install the repair in that limited access situation?
Well, generally what we'll have to do first in a situation like this one is we'll have to go in and spend the day clearing the vegetation and, digging up bushes, setting things aside if it's worth keeping. Like I said, just clearing everything back below the wall, and behind the wall. And then literally we would be setting up scaffolding, and then mobile scaffolding or mobile units where we can work around and take the small drilling equipment and hand carry it piece at a time up and set it up and start drilling in the anchors through the wall, one at a time. Yes, it is arduous and it is tedious, but like I said, there's a huge advantage in doing that, because when we're done, the only thing you've really had there is foot traffic.
And let's say some of the timbers at the top of the wall are rotten. How would you get around that situation to make that wall stable for another 20, 30 years?
You could actually replace, timbers. You could spot fill and replace the timbers in place and peg it back, because then ultimately once the facing is put on, the facing and or the geofabric is put on, that's going to tie everything together as one. So, that's really just to help keep soil loss from occurring, is to install a new timber and or the geofabric. That is the purpose of that.
Okay. What about drainage? Let's say there's a drainage problem on the wall. And could that be incorporated into the top of the wall at the time of the repair to improve that water drainage away from that retaining system?
Absolutely. Typically what we've done in the past is adding, whether bringing in another landscaper, or we do it where we'll cut in a swale or bring in soils and add a berm of dirt, soils, so that the water just doesn't cascade over the wall, and which further erodes things, and or putting that berm of dirt there so we can put a hedgerow there for safety, or whatever. We could, like I said, putting in that berm of dirt definitely, and divert the water down the sides and keeping it away from that wall, instead of just sitting there, against the wall, or sitting there overrunning it, and softening the soils behind it, which leads to a whole other cascading effect there.
Okay. Well, I mean, of course, each situation needs to be calibrated, on a case-by-case situation to see if it's a good candidate for the stabilization. Doing the soil nails combined, with the fencing, and even doing the vegetative wall type of situation that we were introduced to. But certainly, if you're a property manager or a homeowner that has a sloping lot, and there is a old retaining wall on your property that needs to be stabilized, we'd love the opportunity to meet you, and we can have a phone conversation with you, and then decide if that's appropriate for a site visit. But we'd love to schedule time to talk with you and potentially come see you. Again, this is Chris Merman at Piedmont Foundation Repair. My name's Michael Mazarang. And we've been around the industry since the early 90s, and we'd love to share our expertise with you. You can call me at 704-787-6972, or call Chris at 704-401-4111, or you can visit us on the web too. We're pretty easy to find. Just put Piedmont Foundation Repair in your browser, or my website is Specialty Foundation Repair. And you can find us that way. Send us a message
Absolutely.
through our website. So we do appreciate you watching today, and we look forward to talking to you more about retaining walls, the timber retaining walls, or any masonry retaining wall that you might have trouble with. Certainly, we can certainly help with these applications as well. So we do thank you, and hope you have a good afternoon.
Thank you.